So today we're going to do some recovery talk. So I went to a CODA meeting, Codependent Anonymous 12-step program, and I was learning about myself, feeling interested, accepted, and a little different. How having been compliant for so long and glamorizing, giving my entire self and my level away, I'm finally learning that God's grace didn't allow me to throw myself away and lose my level. I had repressions of wanting my way. My recovery over 5 years had shown me, in Codependency Anonymous, had shown me that what was hiding in the dark, my own pushiness and forcefulness and wanting compliance. There was so much charge from having not gotten my way and feeling my will had been blocked. There was this grimace, this scornful look, condemning tone, like a type of non-consensual servitude that I had not only with myself, but also with others. And I realized God could help me to release the pushiness, the forcefulness, and it's the reason that I have a self still, versus all the justifications and reasons I had for giving myself away and losing my growth and my level, which is actually sinning against myself. I finally have growth that is mine, where I've gotten to, as I'm healing from the codependency, if it's possible, I'm doing my best. With the help of my higher power, I now release the pattern of repetitive and obsessive thinking and forgive myself for hurting myself and others, and forgive myself for letting others hurt me, and I trust my higher power, I trust myself. And as I affirm that, something starts to happen. And I want to share also about, from an OA meeting I went to, the journey. When I first joined, it was like I fell off 1 year, 3 months. When I had shared this, but I had a light experience at the beginning of when I joined OA, also about 5 years ago. Life was so full and rich and bright and meaningful, and I saw the light. It felt beyond anything, the beyond that I'd always craved. But in the patterns that eventually crept back in, which were nurturing a void versus a self, when I started reconnecting with my family and moved to a new community, which was very enabling, avoiding distraction, denial, dishonesty, and isolation. In the dark, the light looked very bright, but when in the light, it looks less bright. So this idea that I was through the grace of always, the grace that was always there, despite the fact that I felt I lost my OA is Overeaters Anonymous 12-step program as well. I thought I lost my my OA purity, virginity, because I broke that food plan that I committed to. And then I was thinking of the Jewish fast days, because we're also having a fast day this Sunday. They come around every year on the same dates, and there was so much forbidden, unkosher, and bad, impure foods in it. Kind of this idea of restriction and abstinence, and I had some confusion about it. And as I was healing my power struggle, trust issues, projection, disowning issues, authority fears, and I just mentioned the oral kind of the fixations, but any of the fixations, automatic behaviors and coping strategies that are unconscious, but even when they become obvious, unlike other habits and tendencies, I couldn't do it alone. I learned so many skills and abilities that made so many relationships possible. It's about healing the relating through the higher power, through the food, through the people, all these relationships, as well as so much self-awareness, and so many choices became available rather than I have to do something. I realized that I didn't have to perpetuate putting standards and conditions on others in order for there to be in order for us to listen and accept or even love them. It's not necessary for them to be anything. They can be lovable as they are if I really want to practice love. And when I learn from everyone else, beginners, experts, different kinds of people, I will continue to reap the benefits, which is open-mindedness, tolerance, teachability, and open-heartedness. And in a different in a talk with someone that I had, her name is Ortal, we said humans will inevitably disappoint us, and we have to make Hashem, God, the primary bond without anything between us, not father, not mother, husband, children, rabbi, friend, leader. And then in an OA meeting, a different one, I was talking about how I was processing about how I didn't feel encouraged, and risk requires, risk is required when you make progress. And I feel I ate that disappointment and resentment and the thoughts and beliefs that became part of me, those doubts, those dissatisfaction. And when I started to choose to balance my own light and dark and be my true self, being true to myself, versus trying to get anyone else's free light, I couldn't anymore feel like the victim. It started to be replaced by this feeling, by this ability to see from others' eyes that everyone is also God's children, and this relating, finding commonality, seeing my part, and recognizing things as misunderstandings. And staying young, a beginner, growing, changing, right? And I guess really that would be. I want to share a different angle. This is from Wikipedia about druids, because I thought it would be interesting. And I'm not talking about this in a way of spirit or religious, but someone I know told me to look into it. So I thought it was interesting, and I want to share it here, just like, in terms of the meetings and the wisdom and the healing, like that. It's very powerful. So a Druid was a member of the high-ranking priestly class in ancient Celtic cultures, which are pagan. So I'm not saying that, this will connect you closer to one God, and we have to believe in a higher power, but I have a few things I want to share from this. So, you could find it on Wikipedia. Druids were religious leaders as well as legal authorities, adjudicators, lore keepers, which means they kept like the stories going, medical professionals, political advisors, but they left no written accounts. And while they were reported to have been literate, they're believed to have been prevented by doctrine from recording their knowledge in written form, and their beliefs and practices are attested in some detail by their contemporaries from other cultures, such as the Romans and Greeks. And the earliest known references to the Druids date back to the 4th century BCE. The oldest detailed description comes Julius Caesar's commentary De Bello Gallice, 50s BCE. Julius Caesar wrote that they were one of two most important societal groups in the region, alongside the Equites, which were nobles. So it was nobles and Druids that were the top two most important social groups. And the possible etymology roots is oak knower, as in the one with firm knowledge, a great sage. It also might be a good knower, Druid. It could be a sage or a wise man, a seer, a sorcerer, an idiot or a fool, a bad knower, a not knower is ignorant, or the wren, like the bird, is what Druids. So rituals described by JC by the Druids were organizing worship, sacrifices, divination, judicial procedure in Gaelic, British, and Irish societies, and they were also exempt from military service, paying taxes, and had the power to excommunicate people from religious festivals, making them social outcasts. And some even wrote that they were held in such respect that if they intervened between two armies, they could stop the battle, and were called philosophers, men learned in religious affairs, who are honored with domains in both natural and moral philosophies, investigators of obscure and profound subjects. Someone said their instruction was secret and took place in caves and forests. Someone said he knew one who claimed to have knowledge of nature and made predictions by augury, which is through the birds, and by conjecture. As far as I remember, augury is the birds. Caesar said it could take up to 20 years to complete the course of study that they learned, their initiation, the oral literature, and what was memorized. And Caesar said that they used thieves or guilty criminal offenders as human sacrifices, but when criminals were in short supply, they used innocents. So we don't know, much about this because it wasn't written down. But other people made reference. So they burned them alive in a large wooden effigy, which is a sculptural representation, often life-size, of a specific person or prototypical figure. A wicker man. Some people know nowadays there's a festival called Burning Man, and they burn a figure, not a human, a figure. And others say that they did different sacrifices to different deities, drowning for Tutates, hanging for Isos, and burning for Taranis. Someone said that a sacrifice acceptable to the Celtic gods had to be attended by a Druid because they were the intermediaries between the people and divinities. But they did find mass graves and evidence of human sacrifices. So I wanted to share this to say that some of this could sound completely abnormal to us, and some of it could even sound like they were doing recovery meetings to connect with a higher power. And so that's why we have to have each individually our own personal relationship with a higher power, not only from leaders, because at this time that they were there, it was totally normal for them to have this. And I would say for me that while Druids are very interesting, it's very important for me to remember the oneness of Source, the oneness of Source, not a pagan, multiplicity of powers. And who created all these powers? There's a oneness, there's a source of all of it. So we'll stop there, and I will probably do another video shortly, because Friday is sometimes a day where I don't want to do a video, and today's Thursday. It is Thursday evening now, so I could do the video shortly, and then we can have it for Friday, rather than me do it on Friday when I might be rushed or may not even have the time, which has happened before, so that I can make sure I do my blessings for whoever watches the Friday video, now or later.